Okay. Love music, love life. It's your Monday dose of the national headlines and what's happening in Nigeria, even though you might not call it news because some things are not exactly new. However, we will still have the analysis done and you can join the conversation. WhatsApp line is 080. Okay, sorry, I'm still stuck with the old number. I'll try to adjust. It's 0911 999 0981. Again, 0911 999 0981. And for those asking, Ayokomi is taking a much deserved rest. I'm sitting in for him and we'll have just a swell time as always. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun. And so we're live on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. That allows you to view this from any part of the world that you're joining us from. It allows you to contribute, ask your questions, drop your feedback using the live chat option. And it also allows you to go back to the stream later on or share with someone who you think should be in on the conversation. And so without wasting much time, we'll dive right into the first headline of today. By the way, joining us to analyze the news today is Lakunle Yusuf. Good morning.
Good morning, Oluwaseun. It's good to see you on the early morning beat again. I think the last time you were here was sometime last year. I hope you enjoyed this beat until Ayokome comes back from, as we say, the jungle where he's gone to hibernate. Good morning, morning everywhere where you're hearing us today.
Thank you for the warm welcome. I don't know if I'll be enjoying it, consider all that we have lined up. But we'll start with the one coming from Premium Times about the All Progressive Congress sweeping majority as INEC releases by-election result across 16 constituencies. Now, in case you do not know, over the weekend, on Saturday specifically, by-elections were conducted across 6 federal and state constituency in 12 states, and the results were released. But there's something peculiar about it. Or is it peculiar now? I'll let Lakunle tell you more about that. So please take it away.
Okay, so elections held in, I think, about 6 states and 16 constituencies across all
states.
Is it 4 states?
12 states.
12, was it? Okay, 12. I know Oyo, I know Edo, I know Kano, I know Adamawa, I know Anambra. I think I mentioned 6, sorry. So those were the ones that were actually in my conscience. I didn't know there were that much. Okay, so these are off-cycle and off-season elections that needed to happen according to electoral laws and the Constitution of Nigeria because of resignations, unfortunate deaths of people who occupy these positions, or resignation because they move to higher things. So, for example, the current governor of Edo State was a sitting senator before he won his party's ticket to contest for the gubernatorial election, which he won 2 years ago. And it's taking 2 years before his replacement comes in. Now, the first thing that comes to mind for me in this story is, it then means that people of Edo Central, which Governor Obapolo represented, had no representation at the Senate for 2 years. Where does that leave the people of that constituency? And this can also be applied across board for all other senatorial, all of these elections that are held yesterday. There was also the issue of the senator who is now the minister for works and housing. That's Engineer Umahi, a former governor. He'd won an election to go to the Senate before he was appointed as the minister. There was one there was a House of Rep member who died last year, and so we can look at all of that way. Now, we had a discussion on social media, I think yesterday or Saturday. There is a Supreme Court judgment in Nigeria that said that we vote parties, not individuals. If that is the law, if that is interpreted by our Supreme Court, in my mind, I think then that these off-cycle elections that we have for these replacements are very unnecessary. If we voted parties according to the interpretation by the Senate, by the Supreme Court, it then suffices that when this kind of vacancies happen, the INEC should just write to the political party of the incumbent that has died or has resigned to provide a replacement. Two things: it is faster, it is cheaper, because the cost of running this off-cycle election is almost not different from running the regular election itself. Now, when you look at it, it's also that's if the second perspective I was going to look at the thing. Then the third one I'm going to look at then is that it is the victories that has been announced is reflection of maybe where 2027 is going to go. APC is consolidating where they had their stronghold. Kano particularly tells me that the NNPP still flexing their popularity in Kano despite not having any major electoral victory anywhere else in the country. You look at Oyo State, where PDP is still the strong party to beat there. You look at Anambra, where APGA still continues to hold sway. So nothing particularly has changed in terms of the trend of who would win here or there. And it's an indicator as to what 27 would be in all of this. Then the fourth thing I then look at is, so what then happens when these people resume in their respective positions, wherever, state assembly, House of Rep, and Senate? Do they get paid for the number of months that they've been away, or their salary starts counting from the day they resume? This is another unresolved part of administration of our political and political strategy across all boards in Nigeria. So when you look at all of these things, all of them put together, you start to think that elections in Nigeria is a business on, that even government itself is an invested and interested party. And I think that we should look at it, we should look at our laws to make ways where our elections can be run cheaper, where we don't have to do this, we don't have to shut down parts of the country or the entire country because we want to run an election, which is at a great cost to us every time we do it. So congratulations to all the winners, and I hope that they will add value to the polity in Nigeria wherever they find themselves in the House of Assembly. Your people depend on you to represent them properly and well, and you bring the necessary dividends of democracy, as we say, to your people.
Before I let you catch your breath on that one, I just want to take you back to some of the reports out there as touching these by-elections in different states. For instance, in Edo State, in some places there, the PDP is rejecting the victory, citing sabotage. In Adamawa, the PDP is heading to court saying that the police is not exactly clean hands in that one, and they're alleging police complicity. If we go over to Jigawa, PDP also is rejecting the result. And even in some places, they have, as the APC as well as the PDP, have called on INEC to cancel the by-elections in places like Kano and the Shanono and Bagwai and Gari constituency, citing malpractices, intimidation, violence, and the likes. So you think this is normal? Everybody will be fine, or it is what it is?
Well, it's a combination of all of the above that you say. It is unfortunate that it's so difficult to even believe anymore whether these claims are true or not. Because, Sheon, let's ask ourselves, which election have we had in Nigeria that the loser has not used any of those, has not cited any of these things you just mentioned as reason for losing? You remember the story of the boy who was supposed to look after the family sheep that cried wolf 2 times, the third time people ignored him. So when this becomes a recurring denominator in reason I lost an election, you begin to even doubt whether it is true or not. No, I'm not saying it didn't happen. Yes, of course, there were reports of people being caught with money to buy votes. There was a video of a particular person who stood in the way of the deputy governor of a state and prevented him from entering the that person's constituency because he claimed it is his constituency. The governor is not a candidate, the deputy governor is not a candidate and should not come to his constituency. How that it could have escalated, it could have been violent, but I guess the deputy governor rose above the intimidation and the ego trip that obviously I saw in that video and walked away from what could have been worse than what we saw. So it's not that those things don't happen. Yeah, there was a case in I think it's in Ibadan. The candidate's polling booth, he had only 17 people come to vote for him. So if he says, for example, that the election was rigged, how is it rigged that even in his own polling booth, he had only 17 people in his locality where he lives? He could not even mobilize people from his own immediate environment to come out and vote. So yes, it is there. It is bad advertisement for our democracy. It is bad for us that at this age and time, we are still victims of thuggery, vote buying, and all that. But I think that we should look at the elections in itself and say that we should always look at the elections that how can we get better at eliminating these things. It's okay that it is highlighted. All of us have a role to play. We as parents, as children, as politicians, we need to get the psyche into our heads that politics is not business. But of course, it is business with us right now in Nigeria. Those are the things that we hope that as we mature in the business of politics and elections, we'll start to disemphasize these things. Of course, the votes count, in my opinion, I think the votes count. That's why people go all the way out to intimidate and also to buy votes, because if it does not count, nobody would worry about that. We'll just go to INEC office and go and just write the result, which of course I'm not saying doesn't also happen. But there's a popular thing among politicians themselves that they say that you can only rig where you are popular. Okay. So, I mean, we would talk about it all the time. But important thing at the end of the day is that there's always the opportunity to go to the courts and prove all these allegations. And if you win, good for you. If you don't, prepare for the next one.
Well, I'd like to know what you think about this one coming from Daily Post. Less than 24 hours after she lost the bid to replace her husband, Senator representing Anambra North Senatorial Zone, Tony Nwoye, has appointed the candidate of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Justin Azuka, as a legislative aide.
How should I respond to that? Okay, so I read that report and my mind two ways. One, okay, so the point that I got out of that was, okay, so she's going, somebody said that it's a way that they nominated her to run for the post as a way, as a means of empowering her to take care of the family left behind by the late House of Assembly member. I found that very unpalatable. That so it's not because she's qualified to be a member of the House of Assembly in whatever form, but as a payback to say, take, go and continue to be eating where your husband stopped. I mean, that is not something that we should be projecting, even if that is the reason. That is not what should project to people on the outside, right? Having said that, we need to also go back to what happened to her spouse, her partner who died. He was kidnapped and killed. Where is the investigation at? Those are the kind of justice must be seen to have been done. Justice has not been done by appointing her as a legislative aide. What is the qualification she's taking into the job as a legislative aide? Okay, what is the insurance package for our politicians when they're in office? What is what is the insurance package? What is the benefit that is due to them if they die, if they fall sick, if they have accidents that are life-threatening, and so on and so forth? So those are the basis with which structures such as that must be in place, so that when incidents as this happen, the families left behind can be sure that there's something to fall back on, not that we will dash them positions out of emotions, knowing that the person may not necessarily be qualified. But in politics in Nigeria, the man who is appointed her as aide has done the best thing ever possible now, right? He becomes popular in that region and all that, but so I will, as a matter of fact, excuse it as part of the maturing of our democracy. At some point in future, I hope that this kind of things will not make the news as the reason for her being appointed as an aide. I wish her the best in the role. I hope she's qualified to be able to do the job she's been appointed for. I hope it's not just a means of just it's just not a label and then she just get dashed the 200,000 naira monthly. I wish the senator himself all the best in this new adventure.
Considering that, according to Daily Post, the idea of fielding her as candidate of the ADC was to empower her to train her 3 children left behind by her late husband. Again, we hope for the best for the people that will be represented. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1, and you can join this conversation. What you need to do is send your messages to us on WhatsApp, and we'll take them as much as we can within the space of time that is allotted to the show. The WhatsApp line is 0911 999 0981. Again, 0911 999 0981. Good morning, Mr. Ajayi Oloniloa. Says it's exciting to see you on Freshly Pressed. Thank you. For INEC to continue organizing by-elections to fill vacant seats in national and state assemblies is a waste of scarce resources, as political parties can simply nominate new candidates to fill the vacant seats of their members, as it's done in the United States of America. Good morning, Dayo Dada says, when you build your government on lies, propaganda, and eye service and expect to prosper, you can't. Since your president can't enter through the back door. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I'm having a number of issues reading your messages. So if you could help me to reward that, Dayo, I would appreciate it and gladly take it. Joseph says, keep them poor and they will remain vulnerable to sell their vote. Weaponized poverty. All right. We'll go back to the news now, and this time we're talking about the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission recovering over 5 billion naira and $10 million from contractors and government officials indicted in the fraud in the turnaround maintenance of the nation's refineries in Port Harcourt, Kaduna, and Warri. And before I take your thoughts, Lakunle, one of the part that got me in this article, this report from The Punch, is that the EFCC said they are probing the sum of 1,559,239,000 and so on, allocated to the Port Harcourt Refinery, then to the Kaduna Refinery, $740 million plus, and to the Warri Refinery, 658 million naira plus, sorry, $1 million plus. That is something. What are your thoughts, Lakunle?
Oluwaseun, when you hear some of the amounts of monies that are being called, don't you feel some form of tremor in your chest? I mean, you hear some of these amounts and you would wonder, so what's happening? You are spending this kind of money on a facility that in the last 30 years has not refined 1 barrel of crude. And everybody looks away. Everybody thinks it's normal. And in my opinion, I think the 3 refineries, or maybe let's say 4, okay, 3 because 2 of them are under the same management in Port Harcourt, one in Warri and the Kaduna one. I think the 3 refineries of government in Nigeria are the most opaquely run public institution in this country. Every government comes with a plan to do a turnaround maintenance. You hear the billions of dollars that they budget to do this thing. At the end of every tenure of every president, every managing director of NNPC, nothing happens at those places. And guess what? The money has been spent. In the 45 to 50 years of the Port Harcourt refinery existence, they now have pensioners. The government paid some people pensions in that organization to date, and the place is not productive. How is that happening in a country that says that it wants to manage its scarce resources? How are we dealing with it? I wish that okay, so this is one report that all of us should look out for and follow on a daily basis to see where it is going to end. The amount of money you hear, look at what they say, it's the money, how the monies go out. It says that there were fraudulent practices, including over invoicing. Over invoicing means something is supposed to be for 10 naira, they write the invoice for 100 naira. Contract inflation is that if contract is one amount and it's another amount, then you make payments that have no head or tail. That's called the questionable payment. I wish that the report has specified exactly what these questionable payments were for. And so when you look at all of that, and so the award contract, the contract does not get done, but the contractor gets paid. How is that done? Over 40 years, and it's done repeatedly every year, every market day. We hear this. You can bet, right? After the expiration of this government in 2027 or 2031 or whatever, in the next government, you will hear again that I want to do a turnaround maintenance on these same facilities that we are talking about today. Mark my words. And because nobody gets to pay for these things that we report, again, like I said, I hope that as we go along, these reports will remain in the forefront. And I wish that this report has also named the management, because it said former management of the three refineries. I wish it's be specific to name the management that are being probed for all of this, so that we can even have an idea of when exactly these monies that they are investigating actually happened.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fraudulent of them all? Hopefully, this report or this probe does not end up under the carpet, just like some. We'll move over now to this one that is being called for by SERAP, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. They are asking the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, to urgently refer to anti-graft agencies the allegations that lawmakers pay as much as 3 million naira before being allowed to present bills, motions, and petitions at the National Assembly.
Okay, so I do not think that the EFCC has the oversight to directly investigate the National Assembly. I am not so certain, I'm not sure. But I think that the House of Assembly itself has its own ways and means of investigating itself. And I think that that is where the investigation should start from. Now, this is an allegation from a third party against the National Assembly. So it behoves on the National Assembly itself to do a self-examination to test whether this is true or not. And if anybody is found wanting, then they can now recommend that person to EFCC or police for prosecution or whatever. Having said that, it is not today that we've had various tales, stories, commentaries about how things get happen in the National Assemblies. Every year we hear that MDAs go there with bags of money to induce the lawmakers to approve the budget that they are presenting. So if I'm presenting a budget of 50 million for my agency or department or ministry, I'm expected to come with cash of about 5 million to give the committee members who are going to scrutinize my budget so that they can approve my budget 100%, or in the worst case, 95%. We hear those stories all the time. But you see, nobody has been able to substantiate these things. And all of these things will still remain rumors and allegations until somebody comes forward to say, yes, it happened to me. These are the evidences that I have for it, right? And this is where we also would encourage our investigative journalists, in quotes, to help us track some of these things and put it in the public sphere. Put names, put dates, put times, so that when these matters are being discussed either in investigation or in open court, there will be no spiritual snakes, and there will be no blind auditors that cannot be replaced, and so on and so forth, that will prevent the investigation from being complete. This is an open allegation, and I hope that the Senate, if they get to see this, or somebody can help us get it to them, they should investigate themselves, particularly the member who brought it to the news that this thing happens. Okay, I know that there are what they call lobbies. Lobbying in the National Assembly is legal. However, you do your lobbying is now what makes it illegal. So I think that the investigation should be first in-house before it goes to the police or the EFCC. I do not think the EFCC has that oversight to run into the National Assembly to say I'm investigating anything. So SERAP should probably carry the petition directly to the office of the Senate President and Speaker of the House of Representatives, and demand for the internal investigation. Then, if there is substance in this allegation, it goes to the police for prosecution.
You know, I'm really tempted to chuckle when you say they should investigate themselves, because who's going to investigate who? The person alleged to be collecting the money? I mean, who is going to run the investigation?
That's unless we change our laws to say that the Senate or the police can run into the place and start the investigation directly. I stand to be corrected. I do not think they have that power unless we want to abuse processes.
Let's quickly take some messages, and I'll start with this one coming from Joseph Maye from Silver Estates, Ejibo, Lagos. Good morning, freshly pressed, my ever-vibrant presenter, Oluwaseun, and analyst Lakunle. The INEC had continued their shenanigans and impurities with the off-cycle elections, aiding and abetting the APC party to win by-elections. Even the state's electoral commission are worst. I honestly hope that all these malpractices don't plunge Nigeria into electoral mess. God help us. Amen. In the words of Ray Charles, heaven help us all. Charles from Festac says, good morning, Seun. It's laughable to think that any serious country would choose to look the other way when a foreign country describes their two prominent parties as terrorist organizations. Just look at how the elections are held and won by one political party that has performed woefully for close to 11 years now. Only in Africa, and sadly Nigeria, in saner climes, Mahmoud and co would be hearing about elections from correctional facilities. Dayo Dada says, good morning, crew. In a sane country, removal of subsidy, borrowing money or taxing the people is used for development. But here, your government borrows to loot, live their luxury lifestyle, wasteful and unnecessary traveling. Imagine 712 billion naira for renovations of existing airports. Remember the 21 billion naira for VP's lounge, 39 billion naira for conference center in Abuja, billions on jet, Escalade, 150 million naira SUVs for senators. I'm just going to jump to the end. Dio, it would be lovely to have your message shorter, please, for the sake of time. Said, it's a shame the worst of us is reading the best of us. Truly, that was a country. Ade from Lagos. Well, Ade, please keep it short. Thank you. Kamal Okunla.
Can I quickly respond to Dio? Dio, okay. So why are the best of us staying away from attempting to rule the rest of us? This is a challenge that I always find myself throwing out there, even to myself. It's not enough to say the worst of us rule the best of us. The best of us should get into the ring and offer themselves for public office so that they can rule the rest of us as well.
Kamal Okola from Lagos says the appointment of legislative aides here appears to be driven more by loyalty than by technical expertise. Barrister Dan Okuda from Igondo says, good morning, the crew. Where is Melikari in all of these refinery turnaround probe? It should be the first to be docked by EFCC. Michael says, why are we beating around the bush for goodness sake? Shouldn't the Minister of Petroleum be sacked? Why are they probing the small fish? Shouldn't the minister know about what's going on in this office? Emeka from Ikeja, yes, Mr. C and AB Buzimo are unavoidably absent. They'll be back. Fabian from Ekwe says, good morning, everyone. The amount of corruption and unaccounted expenses in the NNPC maintenance turnaround is nothing new. Nigerians are getting tired of the daily news regarding corruption in high places as nothing happens to those involved. Until the system is changed, it will continue. Let everyone focus on doing their best at their own jobs and do the needful when the next election comes. And Gilbert Musa from Festac says, on the EFCC probe on the 3 refineries, it can be likened to the 25 billion naira investment in our power sector in 2004. Till date, we are not told reason Nigeria still generates below 5,000 megawatts of electricity, despite all huge investment of public funds in the sector. And on YouTube, Miriam Juma says, what will the money recovered from these fraud used for? Well, we unfortunately cannot take more, but I would want you to quickly just give me your 2 cents on this one coming from The Guardian, Lakunle. EFCC immigration deport 42 foreign cyber criminals and 150 more to follow. And among them are Chinese and Philippines. Lakunle.
Good news for me as far as I'm concerned. At least it highlights 2 things. One, that all the reports about Nigerians being the scammers may not be entirely true. Some people have infiltrated the Nigerian environment from other countries to come and perpetrate their scamming here. But when it is seen from the outside, it is because it's originating from Nigeria that it must be Nigerians. Then 2, that somehow our security agencies are maybe overstretched, underfunded, undertrained, but somehow they are still getting a headway in apprehending some of the criminals that are giving this country a bad name. And 3, maybe the deportation sends a signal to the others that their days are possibly numbered. And I think that we should commend the Immigration Service, the EFCC, and maybe the police in making this happen. We hope to hear more of this so that if we can get rid of the infiltrators, then our own local ones who also do the same thing know that their days are numbered.
Thank you for your time this morning, and thank you for sharing it with us to give us your analysis on this headline, Lakunle. We appreciate you. And
thank you.
Yes, you can find him on socials, especially on X at Lakunle70, at Lakunle70. You can go back to YouTube to find the stream, which is at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. What you can do is just look for the live option, the playlist or something, and then you find hashtag Freshly Pressed 981, and you see today's stream there. We'll continue with Smooth Breakfast, and coming up at 8:15 will be the Queen of the Locker Room, joining us to discuss what is hot on the SWAT news for this morning. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. See ya.
So see you on Wednesday, I guess. Yeah. Or Thursday.
Yeah. It's Wednesday. See you on Wednesday.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.